Mr. Olthoff,
Present.
Mr. Stauffenberg,
Present.
Mr. Tripp,
Present.
Mr. Washington,
Present.
Mr. Tholen, Ms. Polk, Mr. Mulcahy,
Present.
Mr. Hildebrand, Mr. Einfeld, Mr. Payton,
Present.
Ms. Peters, Mr. Ritter,
Present.
Mr. Duda, Mr. Kinzinger,
Present.
Mr. Wheeler, Mr. Lear.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. We have no request for public comment this morning. The approval of the August 16, 2017 minutes would be in order. Mr. Washington, Mr. Payton with a second. Any additions or corrections?
No.
Okay. No?
No.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Motion carried. Building report, the July 2017 building report.
Yes, we do not have.
No, I'm sorry.
There you go. We do not have the August report available, but in your packet is the July 2017 report. For July, we had 1 new home. We had 77 permits. We collected a total of $17,796 on those permits. With fines, walkthroughs, and other fees, we collected $19,596 for the month of July.
Any questions? Motion to approve by Mr. Stauffenberg, seconded by Mr. Ritter. All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Stormwater MS4 program discussion.
To remain compliant with our MS4 program and permit, I am required at every planning and zoning meeting to ask if anyone has any stormwater issues or MS4 program issues they would like to discuss. If not, we can move on. If you do, we need to discuss them.
Anyone? Seeing none, we'll go on to transportation. FTA section 5311F intercity bus program. Oh, Ms. Dunbar, you have a question.
Thank you, Chairman. What's MS for?
Municipal storm sewer system, the four S's.
Storm
Program.
sewer system.
Surface?
Yeah, I can get back to you on that.
Surface.
Well, you know, because I'm still a little new.
So am I on this. This will be a standing agenda item on all of our agendas. for
Maybe
PJ.
you could just give a brief overview next time about what that means.
We could do that, yeah. Okay. Not a problem.
Is that a promise?
I really wasn't prepared for that question, so, okay.
Okay, going on to transportation.
Transportation, just make a note here. Okay. IDOT has issued a call for projects for public transportation service that qualifies as intercity bus service for the fiscal year 2019. Funding source is the Federal Transportation Bill, which is for FTA funds to be used for eligible intercity bus service. We believe that Kankakee County, through ShowBus, has an opportunity to receive these funds and would like to apply for the grant. So we're asking for approval from the committee to proceed with the preparation of the application, which we will bring back to you next month. There is no local match that we are aware of as of right now.
What number? 15, yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm
That's
sorry.
enough.
I make the motion. I make the motion they approve, apply.
You're making a motion to approve.
Yes.
Seconded by Mr. Mulcahy. Discussion. Mr. Kinzinger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What is the relationship, I also am new on this committee, what is the relationship of the county show bus with the Kankakee Valley River Metro? Do they follow each other around the county? How does that work together? How do they work together?
They do work together, but they are two entirely separate agencies and separate systems. ShowBus is responsible for rural transit, which is outside of the metropolitan area, and River Valley Metro is responsible for transit within the metropolitan area.
So this grant would be for everything in the rural area, not in the metropolitan area.
This grant would allow ShowBus, would provide funds for ShowBus to have their routes drop off and pick up at intercity bus routes. Intercity bus is not Metro. Intercity bus is Greyhound and CTA buses that would be going to other
outside.
metro areas,
City to city,
city to
Yes.
city.
in the city is confusing.
This would allow us to enhance our Moments route and actually in the long run may reduce our, not only not cost us money, but actually reduce our local match.
This could save us money.
Yes. We haven't worked out the
Could.
details yet.
Mr. Tripp?
I know I've asked this question a long time ago, but why don't they combine the two of them? Saving personnel, et cetera, et cetera.
Different laws, different funding sources, different,
Well, what do you do to
that
change
would,
it? Silly. Jack.
talk to your congressman, yes. That's what it is. I mean, it's been set
Well-
up to be separate.
I know.
One is doing the rural areas, though, like Pembroke and other rural areas of the county.
Why don't they combine them? They're just,
Well, I think they are separate to make sure that the rural areas do get their fair share. If they were combined, you might see in certain areas that the money's all going towards the metro area and the rural area being left out. I think that's part of the reason.
Ms. Peters?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Correct me if I'm wrong, but as I understand it, I have a disabled child. Well, she's an adult now, but the services are available through Showbus. Say she had a doctor appointment, Showbus could pick her up, take her to the doctor appointment. Metro would not do that service. So it helps elderly, disabled, more homebound people who don't have transportation in the rural areas to get to certain things.
Metro
So-
can do that.
Okay,
Depends on where you live.
okay.
Has to be within their route.
Yes. Well, they do have a van that shadows the routes, the ADA van. It's that's a demand response van, is my understanding.
Mr. Stoffenberg?
Thank you, Jeremy. How much is the grant?
We haven't worked that out yet either.
Oh,
We have till November 17th to get the paperwork in, so we don't know what we're asking for yet.
well, ask for the moon.
Yes, of course.
But our
And then
match,
some.
our match is 30,000, correct?
That's on our normal show bus.
Right.
Our normal show bus.
no match on this one, though.
This is no match and may actually
And
reduce
lower
our
our
local
match.
match on the entire program.
Mr. Payton?
Thank you. Perhaps when we get this grant, we'll be able to enhance Pembroke transportation. When I was mayor of Pembroke, we got a bus that came in the morning. It would leave Pembroke at 7 and it would return at 4:30. And that was 6 years ago. That haven't changed. So just keep that in mind.
Okay. Pembroke does get 5-day-a-week service. It's the
Yeah, but-
only rural area that does.
It's one trip in the morning
Yes.
and one trip in the evening to come back.
So
Anyone else? Do we need a
a motion.
motion to, we've got the motion. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Under Planning and Zoning, ZBA case 17-06, request for a variance to section 121-285, fence height in the C2 General Commercial District on a parcel generally situated in section 16 of Bourbon A Township. Petitions are Mario Allegro, property owner, and Adrian and Roxanne Maiden, applicants.
Diane, can you switch it over? Okay, there. All right, this one's fairly straightforward. It was heard by zoning board on Monday night. The subject site is the Huddle Bar and Grill at 1887 Armour Road, for those of you who may be familiar with that. They have an outdoor patio at that location where they serve drinks and food. And a previous owner put up an 8-foot fence, barrier fence around that patio with no permits, because at that time he would have been told that you can't have an 8-foot fence. 6 feet is the county's maximum amount of fence. The fence has deteriorated, and the Maidens have came in asking for a permit. They've already ordered the 8-foot fence. I think it's sitting on site. And that's when we told them they couldn't have an 8-foot fence. They're applying for a variance to allow for the 8-foot fence instead of a 6-foot. And they gave plenty of good reasons, such as the security of the patio so that alcohol is not removed from the patio and weapons or other contraband is not brought into the patio. Zoning board voted 5-0 to recommend approval. The fence is the blue line on the map. It's on 2 sides of the patio. The building has the other 2 sides.
Is there a motion by Mr. Mulcahy to approve? Second, Mr. Stauffenberg. Discussion. Any questions? Mr. Kinzinger.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I'm in favor of an 8-foot fence, but there's nothing in here stating the aesthetics of that fence. Is it going to be similar to the one they put up, or a chain link fence 8 feet tall with slats?
It will be a privacy fence, but we don't regulate aesthetics.
Well, we're regulating the height, and we're
Just
getting
the
pretty
height,
high.
yes.
I'm concerned.
Do you have, we don't have, yeah, there's a picture of it, of what is there, but they're going to change it, correct?
Yes, it'll be the same type of, well, it'll be a
It's going to be
similar
a-
fence without the lattice on top.
Right, it'll be a
Solid fence, yes.
solid fence.
Solid wood.
Anyone else? Ready for the question? Mr. Kinzinger.
Is there a, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is there a way that this committee can, to improve the height, we set a precedent. We're above our maximum height by 2 feet. We should have some parameters by the type of fence we're going to accept at 8 feet. Now, this fence may be perfectly fine. I am not privy to what they're trying to put in place. But I think as a community, that some serious consideration has to be given here. I mean, it's within the village of Bourbonnais limits. Has Bourbonnais approved this fence?
No, it's not within the village of Bourbonnais.
Yeah, but it's within the mile.
It is. But it's on the village of Bradley's
Maybe the village of Bradley. Okay,
side
sorry.
of the intergovernmental agreement line. They had no comments.
So they have approved it, or has it been to the village of Bradley?
They do not have to approve it.
Did it go to the village of Bradley?
The notice was sent to them for comments. They made no comments.
I maintain my reservations.
And you have every right to do so.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Historic designation for county-owned properties. Ms. Wogan. Yes, please.
Okay, so I think a lot of you probably know about this project who are on the Alliance Board of Directors. We've been talking about it for about 3.5 years. Now, this is an initiative that came out of the planning department initially back in 2014. So about a month from now, October 27th, our application to the Illinois Historic Sites Advisory Council in Springfield will be it will be seen by this body in order to approve a downtown historic district for Kankakee. The Alliance has been working with the City of Kankakee, Kankakee Development Corporation, and Carlisle Architects for this period of time in order to bring this before the committee. The purpose of this is to secure a 20% federal tax credit for developers downtown Kankakee who choose to do historically sensitive development or redevelopment of property. This is not in any way a mandate on property owners downtown Kankakee. It is a voluntary, it would be something that they would voluntarily seek if they so chose. Again, it's an honorary designation. there was a public meeting held in October 2016 to which all property owners within the proposed district were invited, and many attended. Elizabeth probably has the breakdown of how many attended. And subsequently, there was no written objection to this initiative. Next week, the county will be receiving written notification that this is going before the Historic Sites Advisory Council. This notification doesn't go to private property owners. It is advertised in the local paper. And so in that month, between the time that this notification goes out and it comes before this board, property owners have the opportunity to submit written response to the notification. And if 51% of property owners within the proposed district oppose the district's approval by the board, then that's considered by the board. That's never happened in the history of this program, because again, it's a voluntary program that allows for access of 20% income tax credit, which is really beneficial for development in the district, in the proposed district. Right now, 73 properties are being considered are being considered within this district. 61 are contributing and 12 are non-contributing. And one property is the county building that we're in right now. As I understand it, there was some question as to whether individual property owners, including the county, can opt out of inclusion in the district. And as I understand it, there's no method for an individual property owner to opt out. Again, it would have to be 51% of property owners within the proposed district opposing the naming of the district, which again, it's not, the state of Illinois doesn't do this, it's sent on to Washington, D.C. for final approval. So an important, I guess, point to make is, in terms of the county building as a public building, there are no additional restrictions placed on the county in terms of if the county were interested in rehabilitating the building by virtue of the fact that it may be placed on a historic register. Any physical improvement, physical rehabilitation of the building is already subject to review by the state of Illinois by virtue of the fact that it's a historic property. So the National Register designation places no additional, there's no additional hoops to jump through once the designation is made. The contact information, if anyone wants to reach out to the individual at the State Historic Preservation Office, will be on the letter that you receive next week. If you have questions, you can direct them to him. Okay. Andrew Heckenkamp with IHPA.
What are the boundaries of the district?
Elizabeth. And Elizabeth works with Carlisle Architects and has been kind of our point person on this project.
Thank you, Chairman. The boundaries are loosely East Avenue, Oak Street, Harrison, and Station, with a few properties that it's not a straight square. It's a jagged line. I have the map with me if anybody would like to see it.
Okay. Any other questions?
There's a handout here with some information about the National Register and about the act.
Okay. Mr.
The act that the county building is under in terms of rehabilitation as it stands right now without the National Register designation.
Mr. Kinsinger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is new to me, this presentation, so I hope I don't ask a question everybody's asked. I've had limited experience with National Registers and historic buildings. And from the standpoint of development, sometimes you think it's not worth the 20% tax credit when they start limiting how you can do things and what you can do. So my question is this: with the meeting that you had with the private owners, including the county, I guess, in this designated area, what percentage of those owners attended that meeting?
Elizabeth, do you recall how many people attended the meeting?
We had about 62% of the owners.
And, you know, they received a written invitation, printed formal invitation, as well as it was publicized in the paper, on the front page of the paper.
And in that meeting at 62% of ownership, what was the consensus of that 62% regarding this designation?
You know, we didn't receive any formal objection. There were some questions about restrictions to property owners, and we reiterated, because that's a common kind of misunderstanding, is that the National Register designation places some sort of restriction on property owners, and it only places restrictions on those property owners that seek the 20% federal income tax credit for qualifying rehabilitation of their property. So it places no additional restrictions on property owners if they don't seek that. Yeah, go ahead, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Chairman. There's no Thank you, Chairman. There's no designation that prohibits people from tearing down buildings. As a preservationist, I don't like that rule, but there is no designation that would prevent demolition. There's no designation that's absolutely going to prevent somebody from putting a brand new facade on a building. The designation is to promote the use of the tax credits if the property owner chooses. It's to promote our heritage and keep the vibrant downtown that we think has historical character and maintain that. And it's to provide some measure of protection for those buildings. But there is no designation that's going to keep anybody from tearing down this building or any other building. And the designation is mainly concerned with the facade. So any interior renovations do not have to go through that review process.
Okay. If this is accepted and someone takes advantage of the 20% federal tax credit, how long is a waiting period before they can tear the building down in the future?
There is.
There isn't any. That's what you were saying? Okay. I'm going to go to Mr. Washington.
For those of us who can remember what downtown Kankakee looked like, this is coming kind of late because many of the buildings that were here are gone. I am not in objection to this designation, but it's really late.
Well, from what I'm hearing though, even if it was in effect 25 years ago, they'd still be able to tear them down.
Well, I'm not saying anything about tearing them down.
Yeah.
It's just that it's the
And
look
encourage-
of what downtown is now compared to what it was. You know, on the holidays when shopping was going on heavily, you had people 10 abreast on the sidewalks walking downtown, and you had the Bond building, you had several other buildings that are gone now. It's just a comment.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Lear? Oh, wait, Mr. Kinzinger, were you before that?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One of the concerns that I have is most of these buildings require either facade, window and door replacement. And when it comes to window replacement in particular, it's been my experience the restrictions are so restrictive in what you can do that even if the 20% tax credit isn't a big deal, but I can't fix my building because the windows are so expensive, I have to maintain historical preservation.
Well, right now there is a restoration. Not restoration. That's not the word. Rehabilitation going on of a 6,000 square foot building in Momence. They're also on the historic register. It's not a big building. It's a kind of a standard size commercial building. They're in the process of trying to pursue the tax credits. They did replace the windows to the standards of, the IHPA, the Secretary of Interior standards. It's not, if you're going to do a quality rehabilitation of the building, many people like to retain the historic character, and that's really the type of development this particular program incentivizes.
Ms. Dunbar?
And I would just add, If you don't want to take advantage of the tax credit, you can put whatever kind of windows you want in the building. It doesn't restrict. The only time that you have to meet National Register standards for preservation is if you're taking full advantage of the maximum tax credit.
Got a question. In some older buildings, you probably have poured glass.
Yes.
If you're restoring and want to go take advantage of this credit, would you have to put restored glass, poured glass back in, or you could put an efficiency glass in?
You can put efficiency glass, and there's lots of manufacturers that make historic reproduction windows that either look like poured glass or don't, but they have the efficiency of modern glass. So no, that's not a limitation.
Okay.
Well, and that's what they're doing in Moments.
Right.
Everyone wants the high efficiency windows,
Yeah.
but it's really the frame of the
Yeah.
window that's what they
Thank
look
you.
at.
Mr. Lear.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In the absence of the county chairman, I think I need to share some conversations I had with him. I know that he had some reservations about the whole program in terms of county buildings, because obviously county buildings do not have to pay property tax. And so he was not clear that there'd be any particular advantages to the county per se. He recognized there'd be some advantages to the whole concept of historic places. And I think within that context, he was supportive of it. On the other hand, I think there'd be some disappointment learning that we wouldn't have the opportunity to individually opt out, because I know that he was considering whether that would be a course of action we might want to take. The fact that we can't do that may create some reservation. I think many of the other questions that have been, or responses that have been raised here, if you heard them and if I understand the conversation I had with him correctly, the information here would remove many of the objections because they were objections along the lines of things such as if 20 years from now we need to tear down this building, could we do it? And obviously we can. Could we do some kind of remodeling within the building? And obviously we can. So I'm not sure where his position would be at this point, but I thought that it was important for the committee members to know that many of those questions arose in a discussion I had, and it sounds like most of the items that he had some questions on have been answered in a favorable way.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Dunbar?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I might add that the county courthouse has been on the National Register individually listed for quite some time. And I know that there's been some issues with ADA, but ADA accessibility is going to be an issue in that building regardless of whether it's on the National Register or not. I might also add that under the state 707 review policy, which is the Historic Preservation Act in the state of Illinois, and under the US Section 106 review, which is the federal review process for historic preservation, this building is going to be subject to a 707 106 review regardless of whether it's in a national historic district, because it's eligible, because it meets at least one of the criteria to be on the National Register. It will come under 106, 707 and 106 review regardless of whether this district is approved. So this puts zero additional limitations on this building.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Kinzinger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Perhaps she just answered my concern. If that's going to happen anyway, what's the purpose of designating a large area in this district?
Well, if people wanted to take advantage of
Right,
the
it's
tax
to
credit.
take advantage of the income. It's an income tax credit for individuals that are doing qualifying rehabilitation of their property. So it saves them a significant amount in their rehabilitation costs.
There's also numerous studies that point to the fact that historic districts maintain a higher retention of value in their buildings due to their designation and a higher pride in the community. Our arts district down on South Schuyler, I think, is a perfect example of people taking advantage of a historic area and capitalizing on the cultural heritage and the look and the feel of those places, and preserving those places and using them as tourist heritage tourism benefits.
Any others? Mr. Kinzinger.
One more question. There's vacant spaces available in this designated area. And if a developer wanted to build a new building, what additional hoops does he have to jump through in order to provide that space? For instance, I'm thinking of the senior citizen housing on East Avenue, between East Avenue and Station Street. Will that building have to be reviewed by the Historical Preservation Committee, or can he build it as designed?
Yes, he can build it as designed. This is only applies to buildings within the designated area that are 50 years or older. So any new property would not be affected or impacted.
Thank you.
Any others? It's been so long. Do we have a motion? Information only. No motion needed. Okay, any old business? Thank you, Ms. Wogan. Any new business? Any motion to adjourn? By Ms. Peters, second by Mr. Ritter. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. There's everything out to be signed.